One old alien warned an entire empire not to touch Earth. They laughed at him. 3 years later, their empire was gone. This is how it began. Far away from Earth, past stars that humans had never even named, there was a great empire called the Koran Empire. The Koran were tall, gray-skinned creatures with sharp eyes and cold hearts. For 1,000 years, they had grown strong by taking what they wanted. They found weak worlds. They took their people as slaves. They took their metals, their food, their land. No one had ever stopped them. No. The Koran Empire believed they were the strongest power in the galaxy. They were wrong. It started on a quiet day, in a part of space far from any Koran colony. A small Koran patrol ship was flying its normal path, checking for anything useful. The captain of this ship was a young officer named Zeth. Zeth was smart, but he was also proud. He believed the Koran Empire could never lose. He had grown up hearing stories of Koran victories, and he wanted his own victory too. While flying through a quiet part of space, Zeth's ship picked up a strange signal. "Captain, we found something," said the ship's scanner officer, a smaller Koran named Dal. "A ship. It looks damaged. No weapons firing. No power signs." Zeth leaned forward in his chair. "Show me." On the screen appeared a large metal ship, floating slowly in the dark. It was not shaped like any Koran ship. It was strange, thick, and heavy, built in a different style. Lights blinked weakly along its sides like a heartbeat that was almost gone. "What is it?" Zeth asked. Dal checked the old records. "It matches a description from long ago, a human ship." Zeth smiled. "Humans. I've heard that name before. Weak creatures, yes? Soft bodies, no real technology." Dal did not answer right away. He was reading something on his screen, something that made his hands shake a little. "There are old warnings about them, Captain. Very old, from other empires. Empires that don't exist anymore." Zeth laughed. "Empires fall because they are weak, not because of small creatures like humans." He stood up from his chair. "Bring the ship in. We will see what treasures they carry." The human ship was called the Horizon. It was a colony ship built to carry sleeping humans across space to a new home. Something had gone wrong on its journey. Its engines had failed. Its power was almost dead. Inside, hundreds of humans slept in cold sleep chambers waiting for a home they might never reach. The Horizon was helpless. It could not fight. It could not run. The Koran ship pulled it in with strong metal cables, like a spider pulling in a fly. News of the discovery reached the Koran homeworld quickly. The Koran Council, the group of leaders who ruled the empire, called a meeting. They wanted to know what this ship meant, and what should be done with it. In this meeting sat an old Koran named Veltho. Veltho was different from the others. While most Koran leaders were proud and hungry for more power, Veltho was quiet and careful. He had lived a very long life. He had traveled far, further than most Koran ever dared to go. He had seen empires rise, and he had seen empires fall into dust. And he had heard the old stories. Not stories the young Koran knew. Older stories. Stories whispered by traders from far dying empires. Stories about a small blue planet and the creatures who lived there. When Veltho heard that a human ship had been captured, his blood went cold. He stood up quickly, faster than an old Koran should move. "Stop this," he said. "Send that ship back. Do not open it. Do not wake them." The council members turned to look at him. Some smiled. Others simply looked confused. "Veltho," said the council leader, a large Koran named Prax. "You speak of a broken ship with sleeping creatures inside, and you tell us to be afraid?" "I do not fear the ship," Veltho said. "I fear what is inside it." The room went quiet for a moment. Then someone laughed. Then another. Soon, most of the council was laughing. "Old friend," Prax said, still smiling, "you have told us stories before. Stories about a race so dangerous that even the void itself avoids their home planet. But no one has ever seen proof. No empire has ever shown us this power you speak of. That is because the empires who saw it Beltho said slowly, are no longer here to tell you. The laughing stopped just a little. Veltho stepped forward. I do not ask you to believe old stories. I ask you to think carefully. We know nothing about this species. We do not know their strength. We do not know their anger. We do not know what happens when you take something that belongs to them. Prax crossed his arms. And I say we know enough. They are soft. They sleep in metal boxes like children. They could not stop us from taking their ship. What could such weak creatures possibly do to us? Veltho looked around the room. Every face showed the same thing: pride, hunger, and no fear at all. You are making a mistake, Veltho said quietly. A mistake this empire may never recover from. Prax stood tall. The council has decided. We will study these humans. We will learn their weaknesses. And when the time comes, we will add their planet to our empire, just as we have done with 100 worlds before them. The council agreed. Only one voice had spoken against it, and that voice was old and, they believed, afraid of shadows. Veltho left the meeting alone. No one followed him. No one asked what he knew. That night, Veltho sat by his window and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, a small blue planet was still quiet, still unaware that its people had just been taken. They will not listen, he whispered to himself, and soon they will learn why they should have. On the captured ship, Corran soldiers moved carefully through dark hallways. The horizon was cold and silent, lit only by weak emergency lights. Metal doors groaned as soldiers forced them open, searching room by room. They found the sleep chambers, rows and rows of them, holding pale, still human bodies. Some soldiers pointed weapons at the glass, nervous even though the humans inside could not move. They look weak, said one soldier, laughing nervously. Look at their skin, so soft. Another soldier walked closer to one chamber. Inside was a human man, tall, with short hair and a calm face, even in sleep. A small metal plate near the chamber read a name: Ryan Cole. This one looks like a soldier, the Corran said, reading old data on a nearby screen. Military training, combat record. Should we wake him? The commanding officer on the mission thought for a moment. Wake a few. We need to see how they react. See if they beg. See if they fight. The soldiers began working the controls. Slowly, one by one, chambers began to hiss and open. Cold mist poured out onto the floor. The first human to wake was Ryan Cole. His eyes opened slowly. For a moment he did not move. He simply breathed, adjusting to the cold air, to the strange lights, to the strange shapes standing around him. He did not scream. He did not panic. He looked at the tall gray creatures surrounding his chamber, studied their weapons, studied the way they stood, studied every exit in the room. Then, in a calm, quiet voice, he said the only words that mattered. They shouldn't have done that. The Corran soldiers laughed, thinking it was fear-talking, thinking it was a threat with no meaning behind it. They did not understand. They did not know that somewhere on the ship's old system, deep in a part they had not yet searched, a small hidden device had already begun sending out a signal. A quiet call. A message sent far across space, back toward a small blue planet, back toward Earth. The message was simple. It was old. It had been prepared long ago, in case something like this ever happened. We have been taken. Send help. The Corran did not know that Earth had been listening for a very long time. They did not know that Earth had rules about ships that went silent. They did not know that Earth had learned, slowly and carefully, that space was not empty and was not always kind. They did not know that humans, even while sleeping, were never truly unprotected. More sleep chambers opened. More humans woke one by one. None of them screamed. None of them begged. They stood together, quiet, calm, watching everything, remembering everything. Ryan Cole watched the guards change shifts. He watched where the weapons were kept. He watched how many soldiers guarded each hallway, He said nothing more. He simply waited. Back on the Corran homeworld, Prax stood before a large window overlooking the capital city, feeling proud of the Empire's newest discovery. Soon, he thought, humans would join the long list of species who served the Corran Empire. Soon, another planet would fall under their control, just like all the others before it. He did not think of Veltho's warning again. He did not think about the old stories. He believed, like most of his people, that power came from strength, from weapons, from numbers. He did not understand a different kind of strength. The strength of patience, the strength of memory, the strength of a species that did not forget when someone hurt what belonged to them. Far away, on a small blue planet, the Corran Empire knew nothing about, alarms had already begun to ring. Screens lit up in dark control rooms. Voices spoke quickly, calmly, and with purpose. "We have a signal from the horizon," one voice said. "Confirmed distress call, unknown hostile force." A tired officer rubbed his eyes and looked at the message on the screen. "They took our people," he said quietly. He turned to the officer beside him. "Wake the council. Wake Fleet Command. What do we tell them?" The officer's eyes were calm, but cold. "Tell them Earth has a decision to make." Back on the horizon, the Corran soldiers continued their work, unaware of what they had truly started. They walked past silent, watching humans, believing they held all the power in the room. Ryan Cole stood quietly in the corner of a large holding area, surrounded by others just like him. Calm, patient, and waiting. One young soldier guarding the room noticed something strange. The humans were not afraid. Their eyes did not show fear. Their eyes showed something else. Something the young Corran had never seen before and did not understand. He would understand later. For now, deep in space, an old alien sat alone with his warning ignored, watching the stars, knowing what was coming. And deep in the heart of the horizon, a single quiet signal continued flying through the dark, carrying 5 simple words toward a planet that never forgot. They took our people. Help. The Corran Empire had made its choice. Humanity was about to make theirs. The horizon had become a prison, but the humans inside did not act like prisoners. They ate the food given to them without complaint. They walked where they were told to walk. They answered simple questions with simple answers. To the Corran soldiers guarding them, the humans seemed calm, obedient, and harmless. But calm is not the same as weak, and obedient is not the same as broken. Ryan Cole understood this better than anyone. As a former soldier on Earth, he had learned long ago that the smartest fighter is not always the loudest one. Sometimes the smartest fighter is the quiet one, the one who watches, listens, and waits for the right moment. He watched everything. He watched the guards change shifts every 6 hours. He watched which hallways had cameras and which did not. He watched how the Corran soldiers spoke to each other, learning small pieces of their language just from listening carefully day after day. He said nothing about any of this. He simply remembered. The young Corran officer named Zeth was given a new job, guarding the humans and studying them for the council. He believed this was a great honor. He believed he would become famous for helping capture such a mysterious species. Zeth walked through the holding area with pride, his chest high, his steps loud on the metal floor. "Look at them," he said to another guard, pointing at a group of humans sitting quietly together. So calm, so obedient. "I told everyone these creatures were nothing to fear." The other guard, an older soldier named Osk, did not look as confident. "They are too calm," Osk said. "I do not like it." Zeth laughed. "You sound like old Veltho, always looking for danger where there is none." "Maybe Veltho is right," Osk said quietly. Zeth shook his head. "Veltho is old and tired. He sees monsters in shadows. These humans are simple animals. Watch." Zeth walked closer to the humans, stopping in front of Ryan Cole. He crossed his arms and looked down at him, trying to look powerful. "You," Zeth said, speaking slowly as if talking to a child. "Do you understand me?" Ryan looked up at him. His face showed no fear, No anger. Nothing at all. I understand you, he said calmly. Zeth smiled, pleased with himself. Good. Then understand this. You belong to the Koran Empire now. Your planet will belong to us too very soon. There is nothing you can do to stop this. Ryan did not look away. He did not blink. You should send us home, he said simply. While you still can. Zeth laughed loudly. Send you home? You're in no position to make threats, small creature. It's not a threat, Ryan said. It's a warning. For a moment, something in Ryan's calm voice made Zeth's smile fade. Just a little. But he pushed the feeling away quickly, telling himself it was nothing. Soft meat, Zeth muttered, walking away. That's all you are. Behind him, Osk stared at the humans a moment longer, feeling a strange coldness he could not explain. Days passed. The humans were moved from the horizon onto a larger Koran transport ship, then taken further into Koran territory, toward a prison planet called Drenmore. Drenmore was a cold, gray world used by the Koran Empire to hold captured slaves before they were sent to work in different colonies. The humans were placed in a large holding building, surrounded by thick walls, guard towers, and rows of armed soldiers. To the Koran, this prison had never failed. No species had ever escaped from Drenmore. They did not know that no species like humans had ever been sent there before. Inside the prison, life became a quiet routine. The humans followed the rules. They worked when told to work. They ate when told to eat. They slept when told to sleep. But every night, in the darkness of their shared room, they whispered quietly among themselves. How many guards did you count today? One woman asked softly. 6 at the east gate, Ryan answered. 4 at the west. Cameras only cover the main hallway, not the storage rooms. Another man nodded. Power generator is outside the east wall. If that goes down, the security doors unlock automatically. I heard 2 guards talking about it. Guns are kept in the room beside the main office, someone else added. Only 2 guards inside at night. They were not talking like frightened prisoners. They were talking like soldiers building a plan. Weeks passed like this. The Koran guards grew comfortable, even relaxed, around their captives. The humans never fought back. They never raised their voices. They never tried to run. Zeth, now placed in charge of prison security, felt proud of his success. See? He said to Osk one evening, watching the humans through a window. No trouble at all. I told you they were harmless. Osk stared at the humans a long moment. They watch everything, he said quietly. Every guard, every door, every schedule. They are curious, Zeth said carelessly. Nothing more. But Osk noticed something Zeth did not. The humans never looked afraid, not even once. Fear was something Osk understood well. He had seen it in the eyes of 100 captured species over the years. But these humans showed something different, something patient, something waiting. Far away on Earth, things were moving quickly. News of the Horizon's capture had reached Earth's highest levels of command. What began as a quiet distress signal had become one of the most serious situations Earth had ever faced. Hundreds of Earth's own people, citizens, families, soldiers, were now prisoners of an empire no one on Earth had ever met before. Earth's leaders did not panic. They did not rush blindly into war. Humanity had learned long ago, through many mistakes in its own history, that anger without a plan leads only to more pain. Instead, Earth prepared carefully. Shipyards that had once built peaceful colony ships were now working around the clock, building something new. Fast, powerful warships, built using knowledge Earth had kept hidden from outsiders for a long time. Soldiers who had trained for years, but never fought in space, were called into service. Scientists studied every piece of data collected from the Horizon's last transmissions, learning everything they could about their enemy. A woman named General Elena Voss stood before a room full of Earth's top military leaders, looking at a large star map glowing on the wall. They believe our people are helpless, General Voss said, her voice calm but firm. They believe silence means weakness. She pointed at a location on the map, deep inside unknown space. the direction the horizon's last signal had come from. "They are wrong," she said, "and soon they will learn how wrong they are." Around the room, soldiers and scientists nodded, their faces serious, determined, but not filled with hatred. This was not about revenge. This was about protecting their people and making sure no one ever made this mistake again. Ships were built. Plans were made. Quiet signals were sent far into space. Messages meant only for Earth's own people, hidden among the stars waiting to be found. Back on Drenmore, one of those signals finally arrived. Late one night, while most of the prison slept, a small device hidden inside Ryan Cole's uniform, something the Corran soldiers had never noticed, small and simple, built to look like nothing more than a torn piece of cloth, received a quiet pulse of information. Ryan sat quietly in the darkness, eyes open, waiting. The message was short, simple, and clear. "Help is coming. Be ready." Ryan allowed himself the smallest, quietest smile. He turned to the person sleeping beside him, a young woman named Mara, one of the ship's original engineers. He touched her shoulder gently, and she woke instantly, alert and silent, just as they had all trained themselves to be. "It's time to start moving," Ryan whispered. Mara's eyes lit up in the darkness. "The signal?" Ryan nodded. "Earth knows. Earth is coming." For the first time since their capture, hope moved quietly through the room, passed from person to person in whispers and small nods, never loud enough for the guards outside to hear. The next morning, Zeth walked through the prison halls, feeling satisfied with how well everything was going. The council back home was pleased with his reports. The humans remained calm and obedient. Nothing seemed out of place. He did not notice the small changes. He did not notice that the humans had begun moving slightly differently, more purposefully, more united. He did not notice that Ryan Cole had started quietly counting steps between doorways, memorizing patrol timings down to the second. He did not notice that during work shifts in the prison's storage areas, small tools began disappearing, tiny wires, small metal pieces, nothing large enough to be missed, but enough, slowly, carefully, to build something. Osk noticed some of these things. He mentioned his worries to Zeth more than once. "Something feels wrong," Osk said one evening. "The humans are too quiet, too organized." Zeth waved a hand dismissively. "You worry too much, old friend. They are prisoners. What harm could they possibly cause us?" Osk did not answer. He simply stared out toward the human holding building, feeling a cold, uneasy feeling he could not explain. Meanwhile, deep within Corran space, far from Drenmore, something new appeared at the very edge of Corran territory. Something small, quiet, and easily missed by ordinary patrol ships. A single, unmarked human scout ship. It moved slowly and carefully, staying hidden in the shadows between stars, watching, recording, listening. Its pilot, a quiet young officer named Lieutenant Park, sent every piece of information back to Earth immediately. Corran ship movements, patrol patterns, defense positions. Earth was not just planning a rescue. Earth was preparing for something much bigger. Back on Drenmore, the days passed with growing tension beneath the surface calm. The humans continued their normal routines, careful never to raise suspicion, but every night, in quiet whispers, plans grew stronger. "The east wall generator," Ryan whispered one night. "If we can reach it, we cut power to the security doors." "Guards change shift at midnight," Mara added. 4 minutes when the east gate is unwatched." Someone else spoke quietly from the darkness. "And if Earth doesn't arrive in time?" Ryan's voice remained steady. "Then we make sure we're ready before they even need to come." No one argued. No one doubted him. They trusted their training. They trusted each other. And more than anything, they trusted their belief that they were never truly alone, not even here, not even now. One evening, Zeth stood proudly before a small gathering of Corran officials visiting Drenmore to inspect the prison. He wanted to show off his success personally. "You see," Zeth said, walking them past the human holding area. "Completely under control. Not a single incident since their arrival." One of the officials, an older Koran named Counselor Threx, studied the humans carefully through the window. Unlike Zeth, Threx did not smile. "They look patient," Threx said slowly. Zeth laughed lightly. "Patient? They are simply obedient, Counselor, weak-willed creatures with no fight left in them." Threx did not look convinced. "I have seen obedience before, young officer. This does not look the same." Zeth's smile faded slightly, but he quickly regained his confidence. "With respect, Counselor, I have studied them closely every day. There is nothing to fear." Threx said nothing more, but as he turned to leave, his eyes lingered a moment longer on Ryan Cole, who stood quietly watching him back with calm, steady eyes. Something about that gaze stayed with Threx long after he left Drenmor. That night, deep within the quiet darkness of the prison, Ryan gathered the small group of trusted humans together one final time. Around them, the prison slept peacefully, unaware of what was building beneath its calm surface. "Everyone remembers their part?" Ryan asked quietly. Nods answered him from the shadows. "Earth is close," he continued. "Closer than the Koran realize. When the signal comes, we move fast and we move together." Mara looked at him, her eyes steady. "And if something goes wrong?" Ryan's face remained calm, but his voice was firm. "Then we adapt, just like we always have." Silence settled over the room, filled not with fear, but with quiet determination. Outside the prison walls, unnoticed by the guards patrolling calmly under the stars, a single quiet signal blinked faintly in the sky, a message from Lieutenant Park's hidden scout ship, confirming Earth's fleet had begun its final approach. "Prepare. We are close." Inside, Ryan looked up briefly toward the ceiling, as if he could somehow feel Earth's presence growing nearer. He allowed himself one quiet thought. Soon. The Koran Empire believed they had captured a helpless species, quiet and harmless, easily controlled. They did not understand who they were truly dealing with. They did not understand that patience was not weakness. They did not understand that silence was not surrender. They did not understand that far above their prison walls, far beyond their careless confidence, a storm was gathering, quiet, careful, and unstoppable. Zeth walked through the prison halls that night, feeling proud, feeling safe, feeling completely unaware of what was coming. He did not know that far above him, hidden among distant stars, Earth's fleet had already begun its journey. He did not know that within days everything he believed about strength and weakness would be proven completely, terribly wrong. He only knew what he saw in front of him: quiet, calm, obedient humans, exactly where he believed they belonged. He was wrong, and soon he would learn exactly how wrong he had been. Far beyond the edges of Koran territory, hidden in the black silence of deep space, Earth's fleet moved forward like a shadow no one could see coming. It was not a large fleet. It did not need to be large. Every ship had been built with one purpose: speed, precision, and power. Unlike the slow, heavy warships of the Koran Empire, Earth's ships were fast and quiet, built by people who had studied war carefully, learning from every mistake their own history had ever made. At the front of this fleet flew the lead ship, the Vanguard, commanded by General Elena Voss herself. She stood on the bridge, watching the stars pass by on the main screen, her face calm but focused. Beside her stood Lieutenant Park, the young officer who had spent weeks quietly watching Koran space from the shadows. "Report," General Voss said. "Koran patrols remain unaware of our position," Park said. "Their sensors are old, slow. They are not looking for us because they do not believe we exist." Voss nodded slowly. "Good. Let them keep believing that a little longer." She turned toward the star map glowing softly on the wall, her eyes settling on a single marked point: Drenmor, the prison planet holding her people. "Time until we reach Drenmor?" 18 hours, General." Voss's jaw tightened slightly. 18 hours felt like a very long time when her people were still trapped behind enemy walls. But she had learned patience the hard way, through years of training and hard decisions. Rushing blindly into danger helped no one. "Send the signal to Ryan Cole's team," she said. "Let them know we are close." On Drenmore, deep inside the quiet prison building, Ryan Cole felt the small device hidden in his sleeve vibrate softly. He said nothing, but a small, steady calm settled over him as he read the short message glowing faintly against his skin. 18 hours, be ready. He looked around the dark room at the others sleeping quietly nearby, each of them trusting him completely, each of them ready to move the moment he gave the word. 18 hours. It felt both very close and very far away. Meanwhile, the Corran Empire remained completely unaware of what was approaching. Seth spent his morning walking proudly through the prison halls, greeting guards, checking reports, feeling more confident than ever. His superiors back home had praised his handling of the human prisoners. He had even received word that Council Leader Prax himself planned to visit Drenmore soon, curious to see this harmless species everyone had been talking about. Zeth could not have been happier. He had no idea that within a single day everything about his comfortable little world would be shattered completely. At exactly the 18th hour, deep in the black sky above Drenmore, something appeared. At first it was nothing more than a small flicker on the prison's outdated sensors. A single dot, easy to miss, easy to ignore. The Corran technician monitoring the system that night barely gave it a second look, but that single dot became 2, then 4, then a dozen. The technician sat up straight, his eyes widening as more and more shapes appeared on his screen, moving quickly, silently, directly toward Drenmore. "Sir," he said quickly, calling for his commanding officer. "We have incoming ships, unknown origin, moving fast." The commanding officer rushed over, staring at the screen in confusion. "That's impossible. No one attacks Drenmore. No one even knows where it is." But the numbers on the screen did not lie. More ships appeared every second, moving in tight, disciplined formation, cutting through space with terrifying speed. Alarms began ringing through the prison halls. Inside the human holding building, Ryan Cole heard the alarms and felt his heart beat faster. Not with fear, but with purpose. "It's time," he said quietly, standing up. Around him the others rose immediately, calm and focused, exactly as they had trained for. Mara moved quickly toward a hidden panel near the wall, one she had quietly loosened weeks earlier during a work shift. Behind it sat a small collection of tools and wires, carefully gathered piece by piece over many nights. "Power relay is ready," she said. Ryan nodded. "Then let's finish this." Outside, chaos had already begun to spread through the prison. Corran guards ran through the halls, shouting orders, grabbing weapons, trying to understand what was happening. Zeth burst into the security control room, his earlier confidence completely gone, replaced by rising panic. "What is going on?" he demanded. "Unknown ships approaching fast," the technician said. "We can't identify them. They're not responding to any communication." Zeth's mind raced. This made no sense. No one attacked Drenmore. No one even knew. His thoughts froze as a terrible realization hit him. The humans. He turned quickly toward the security cameras showing the human holding area. The screens showed nothing but static. "Cameras are down in the human sector," the technician shouted. Nearby, a second panel gave a sharp, complaining beep. Zeth felt cold fear crawl up his spine for the first time since this entire situation began. Inside the prison, in the darkness beneath the human holding building, Mara worked quickly, connecting the last few wires together with steady, practiced hands. Ryan stood watch nearby, counting the seconds. "Ready," Mara whispered. "Do it," Ryan said. With a small spark, the wires connected, sending a sudden surge through the prison's outdated power system. Lights flickered, then died completely, plunging half the building into darkness. Emergency lights blinked on weakly, barely lighting the halls. More importantly, the prison's security doors, the same doors meant to keep prisoners locked safely inside, unlocked automatically, exactly as the humans had learned they would. The doors slid open with a quiet hiss. Ryan looked back at the group behind him, dozens of humans standing calmly, silently, ready to move. "Let's bring our people home," he said quietly. They moved through the darkened halls like shadows, quick, quiet, and completely coordinated. Every step had already been memorized. Every turn had already been planned. Where guards remained, small teams of humans working together with skill few Corrin could have imagined, quickly and quietly overwhelmed them before alarms could be raised. They were not violent for the sake of violence, they took no more force than necessary, but they moved with a precision that made it clear. These were not the weak, obedient creatures the Corrin had believed them to be. Above Drenmore, Earth's fleet finally arrived in full view, no longer hidden, no longer waiting. The Corrin defense ships, caught completely by surprise, scrambled desperately to organize a response. But their old, heavy ships moved slowly, clumsily, compared to the fast, precise human warships now surrounding them. On the bridge of the Vanguard, General Voss watched calmly as the first shots of the battle began. "Focus fire on their defense platforms," she ordered. "Disable, don't destroy, where possible. We are not here for slaughter. We are here for our people." Human ships moved with practiced coordination, striking key targets with precision, disabling Corrin defenses one by one. The Corrin fleet, unprepared and disorganized, struggled to fight back effectively. Zeth, watching from inside the prison's control room, stared in horror at the screens showing the battle raging above them. "This isn't possible," he whispered. They're winning." Beside him, Counselor Threx, who had arrived earlier that day for his inspection, stood frozen, watching the same screens with a stunned, pale expression. "I warned Prax," Threx muttered quietly, almost to himself. "I told him something felt wrong." Inside the prison, Ryan led his people quickly toward the main gates, moving with calm urgency. Guards who tried to stop them found themselves quickly and efficiently overpowered. Weapons taken before they could even raise an alarm. At the main gate, a group of Corrin soldiers finally managed to organize a defense, blocking the exit with weapons raised. Ryan raised a hand, signaling his people to stop. For a long, tense moment, humans and Corrin soldiers stared at each other across the open space, weapons and fists ready. Then calmly, Ryan stepped forward. "You don't have to do this," he said, his voice steady. "Lower your weapons, and no one else needs to get hurt." The lead Corrin soldier hesitated, glancing nervously at his companions. Fear flickered across his face. Fear Ryan recognized immediately, the fear of facing something completely unexpected. "Stand down," the soldier finally said quietly, lowering his weapon. The others quickly followed. Ryan nodded once respectfully. "Smart choice." The gates opened fully, and the humans moved out into the open night air, free for the first time in weeks. Above them, the battle in the sky continued, bright flashes lighting the darkness as Earth's fleet steadily gained control. Back on the Vanguard, General Voss received urgent news from the surface. "General, we have confirmation. Our people are outside the prison walls. They're safe." Relief flickered briefly across Voss's face, quickly replaced again by calm focus. "Send transport ships immediately. Get them off that planet." "Yes, General." Voss turned back toward the battle raging outside, watching as the last remaining Corrin defense ships either retreated or were disabled completely. The Corrin Empire, so confident just hours earlier, now found itself facing a humiliating, unexpected defeat. Inside the prison's control room, Zeth watched helplessly as Corrin ships retreated in chaos. Counselor Threx stood beside him, his earlier fear now replaced by grim resignation. "This is only the beginning," Threx said quietly. "Isn't it?" Zeth did not answer. He simply stared at the screens, watching everything he believed about strength and weakness crumble completely before his eyes. On the surface, Ryan watched as transport ships descended smoothly from the sky, landing gently nearby. Doors opened, and soldiers in Earth's uniforms rushed out, quickly helping guide the freed prisoners aboard. Mara walked beside him, exhaustion and relief clear on her face. "We actually did it," she said softly. Ryan nodded, watching as the last of their people boarded safely. Earth never abandons its own. As he turned to board the final transport, Ryan paused for just a moment, looking back toward the prison they were leaving behind, now dark and silent, its defenders defeated and scattered. He thought briefly of the young Corin officer who had once called them soft meat, and quietly shook his head. They should have listened, he murmured to himself. Then he boarded the ship, and the doors closed behind him. Far above Drenmore, the last Corin ships retreated in disarray, fleeing back toward the safety of their empire, carrying news of a humiliating defeat no one back home would be prepared to hear. Aboard one of these retreating ships, Szeth sat quietly, staring blankly at nothing, his earlier confidence completely shattered. Beside him, Counselor Threx remained silent, deep in troubled thought. Finally, Threx spoke quietly. "We need to warn the Council immediately." Szeth swallowed hard, nodding slowly. "Warn them of what, exactly?" Threx turned to look at him, his eyes serious and afraid. "That we've made a terrible mistake." Back on the Corin homeworld, Council Leader Prax received the news of Drenmore's defeat with stunned disbelief. He stood silently in the council chamber, surrounded by other leaders, all equally shocked and confused. "This is impossible," Prax said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. "A single prison planet, defeated so easily?" No one answered him. No one had an answer to give. In the back of the room, quiet and unnoticed until now, old Veltho slowly rose from his seat. The room fell silent as all eyes turned toward him. "I warned you," Veltho said softly, his voice heavy with sadness rather than anger. "I told you not to touch them." Prax stared at him, his confidence completely gone now, replaced by genuine fear. "What do we do now?" Veltho looked around the room slowly, meeting the eyes of every leader present, each one now filled with uncertainty and fear. "Now," Veltho said quietly, "we prepare for what comes next." No one spoke. No one had any idea how to answer the question hanging heavily in the air. How do you stop something you never truly understood until it was already too late? The Corin Council Chamber had never been this quiet. For 1,000 years, the Corin Empire had never lost. Every world they touched became theirs. Every species they found became servants. War for the Corin had always been simple. Arrive, conquer, take. Now, for the first time, the council sat in silence, staring at reports of a battle they had lost in less than 1 hour. Council Leader Prax stood at the head of the table, his hands pressed flat against the cold metal surface, trying to steady himself. "Give me options," he said, his voice tight. "Real options. Not fear. Not old stories." No one spoke. Finally, General Kor, head of the Corin military, cleared his throat. "We still have our main fleet untouched. Drenmore was a small outpost, poorly defended. If the humans attack our true border, they will face a very different force." "Do we know where their homeworld is?" Prax asked. "No," General Kor admitted. "We know almost nothing about them. Their weapons, their numbers, their true strength." Veltho, still standing quietly near the back of the room, finally spoke again. "That is exactly the problem," he said. "You are about to fight an enemy you do not understand, using the same pride that led us here in the first place." Prax turned toward him, anger and fear mixing in his eyes. "Then tell us, old one. What do they want? Do they want war? Do they want to end us completely?" Veltho shook his head slowly. "I do not believe they wanted war at all. I believe they wanted their people back, and a warning left alone. We gave them neither." The room fell silent again. "It may not be too late to speak with them," Veltho added quietly. "But every hour we wait, preparing for war instead of peace, makes that chance smaller." Prax looked around the room at his generals, all of them still speaking of fleets and weapons, still thinking only of strength. He made his choice. "Prepare the border fleet," Prax said. "We will not show weakness. If they come, we will be ready." Veltho closed his eyes briefly, feeling a familiar, heavy sadness settle over him. They were making the same mistake again. Far away, aboard the Vanguard, General Elena Voss received the freed prisoners with quiet relief. Families reunited in the ship's main hall, tears and soft voices filling a space that had been silent and tense just hours before. Ryan Cole stood near the doorway, watching the reunions with a small, tired smile. Mara walked up beside him, watching the same scene. "We got everyone out," she said softly. "No one was left behind." Ryan nodded. "That's what matters." But even as relief settled over the ship, General Voss knew their mission was not truly finished. She called Ryan and a small group of senior officers into a private briefing room. "The Corran Empire will not simply let this go," Voss said, standing before the star map glowing on the wall. "Our scouts report their border fleet is already mobilizing." "They're preparing for war," Ryan said quietly. Voss nodded. "Earth Command has made its decision. We will not wait for them to strike first. We will not risk another ship, another colony, another family being taken the way ours was." She pointed toward a distant point on the map, the location of the Corran homeworld itself. "We move forward, not to destroy them," she said carefully, "but to make sure this can never happen again." Ryan studied the map for a long moment. "And if they don't surrender?" Voss's expression remained calm but firm. "Then we make sure they understand completely and permanently that humanity is not something to be taken lightly." Earth's fleet grew as it moved deeper into Corran territory. More ships arrived from hidden positions, gathering into a single powerful force. Unlike the Corran's heavy, slow-moving battle fleet, Earth's ships moved with speed and precision, working together like a single living thing. Aboard one of the smaller support ships, Lieutenant Park watched the growing fleet with quiet amazement. "I didn't know we had this many ships ready," he said to a nearby officer. The officer, older and more experienced, gave a small, knowing smile. "Earth has been quiet for a long time. That doesn't mean Earth has been weak. We simply chose peace, until peace was no longer offered to us." At the edge of Corran space, the two fleets finally came into view of each other. The Corran border fleet was massive, filled with heavy warships built for raw power, their weapons designed to smash through enemy defenses with brute force. Compared to them, Earth's fleet looked small, almost fragile. Aboard the lead Corran battleship, General Kor studied the human fleet with a confident smile. "They are fewer than I expected," he said. "Perhaps this will be easier than the Council feared." Beside him, Councillor Threx, still shaken from what he had witnessed at Drenmore, looked far less certain. "Numbers were not what defeated us at Drenmore," he said quietly. "It was something else." General Kor waved a hand dismissively. "This is a real fleet, Councillor, not a small prison outpost. We will show them the true strength of the Corran Empire." He gave the order to advance. Aboard the Vanguard, General Voss watched calmly as the Corran fleet moved toward them, weapons already charging. "They're not interested in talking," Park said quietly. Voss's face remained steady. "Then we let our actions speak instead." She turned to her communications officer. "Open a channel to the Corran fleet. One final message." A moment later, the channel opened, and Voss's voice carried clearly across the space between the two fleets. "This is General Elena Voss of Earth's Defense Fleet. You captured our people. You ignored a warning meant to protect you. We are not here for revenge. We are here to make sure this mistake is never repeated. Stand down now, and no more lives need to be lost today." Aboard the Corran ship, General Kor laughed coldly. "Stand down? To a fleet a fraction of our size?" He turned to his weapons officer. "Fire." The first shots of the battle lit up the darkness of space. What followed was unlike anything the Corran Empire had ever experienced. Earth ships moved with incredible speed, splitting apart, circling, striking from angles the slower Corran ships could not predict. Where Corran weapons relied on raw power, Earth's weapons relied on precision, striking exact weak points in the heavy Corran armor. One by one, Corran ships lost power, weapon systems failing, engines disabled. Panic began spreading through the Corran fleet as ships that should have easily overwhelmed their smaller enemy instead found themselves falling behind, outmaneuvered at every turn. Aboard the flagship, General Kor watched in growing horror as ship after ship went dark on his display screen. "This isn't possible," he muttered. "Redirect all firepower. Concentrate on their lead ship." But even as Corran ships tried to focus their attack, Earth's fleet had already anticipated the move, splitting formation and surrounding the heavy Corran ships from multiple directions at once. Within less than an hour, the once proud Corran border fleet lay broken and scattered, most ships disabled, drifting powerless in the dark. General Kor, watching his own ship's systems fail one by one around him, finally understood the same painful truth that Zeth had learned at Drenmore. They had underestimated humanity completely. Back on the Corran homeworld, panicked reports flooded into the council chamber. Prax listened in stunned silence as officer after officer described the same impossible outcome. Their strongest fleet, defeated in less than an hour. How? Prax whispered, sinking slowly into his chair. How is this possible? Veltho stepped forward once more, his voice quiet but firm. Because you built an empire on fear and force, believing that was the only kind of strength that mattered. You never imagined an enemy who was patient, disciplined, and united by something stronger than fear. Prax looked up at him, his pride finally broken completely. What do they want from us now? I do not know, Veltho admitted honestly, but I believe it is not too late to ask them directly, instead of assuming the worst, as we did before. For the first time, Prax did not argue. Aboard the Vanguard, General Voss received word that the Corran fleet had been completely disabled. She allowed herself a small, quiet breath of relief, though her expression remained calm and serious. Set course for the Corran homeworld, she ordered. It's time to finish this properly. Ryan, standing nearby, looked at her carefully. Finish it how? Voss met his eyes. Not with more destruction if it can be avoided. With a clear message they will never forget. Earth's fleet arrived at the edge of the Corran homeworld's orbit, their presence alone enough to send a wave of fear through the planet below. Unlike the chaotic battle at the border, there was no attack this time, only silence, and the quiet, undeniable presence of a fleet capable of ending the Corran Empire completely if it chose to. Prax, watching the human fleet appear above his own world, understood clearly that this was no longer a battle they could win. He opened a communication channel himself, his voice heavy with the weight of defeat. This is Council Leader Prax of the Corran Empire, he said slowly. We wish to speak. Aboard the Vanguard, General Voss listened silently for a long moment before responding. You should have wished to speak before you took what wasn't yours, she said calmly. But we are listening now. A short time later, a small human transport ship descended toward the Corran homeworld, carrying General Voss, Ryan Cole, and a small security team. They were greeted cautiously by Corran guards and led into the same council chamber where, weeks earlier, Veltho's warning had been laughed away. Now no one in that room was laughing. Prax stood before them, his pride completely gone, replaced by quiet, humble fear. Beside him stood Veltho, watching the humans enter with a strange mixture of sadness and quiet respect. You warned them, Ryan said, looking at Veltho. We heard about it, from Counselor Threx after the battle. Veltho nodded slowly. I warned them, but they did not listen. Pride rarely does. General Voss stepped forward, addressing Prax directly. Your empire attacked and enslaved our people. We came here to bring them home and to make sure this never happens again. We are not here to destroy your world, unless you force us to. Prax swallowed hard, his voice unsteady. What do you want from us? Voss's answer was calm, but absolute. A promise. Earth's people, and Earth's ships, are never to be touched again. Any species you meet from this point forward, humanity included, deserves to be approached with respect, not conquest. Break this promise, and the fleet you saw today will not hesitate to return. Prax nodded quickly, desperately. Yes, of course, we agree. Voss studied him carefully. Then, satisfied, she gave a small nod of her own. Then this is finished. We didn't want this war. We just don't lose our own. She turned to leave, Ryan following closely behind her. But before stepping out of the chamber, Ryan paused, looking back one final time toward Veltho. You tried to stop this, Ryan said quietly. Thank you. Veltho gave a small, tired smile. I only wish they had listened sooner. Perhaps then fewer lives would have been changed forever. Ryan nodded once, then turned and walked out, leaving behind a council chamber and an empire forever changed. In the following weeks, news of the Koran Empire's humiliating defeat spread quickly across nearby star systems. Other species, who had once feared and obeyed the Koran without question, began questioning their power for the first time. Old alliances broke apart. Old fears faded. The once mighty Koran Empire, an empire that had ruled through fear and force for 1,000 years, found itself reduced almost overnight to a shadow of what it once was. Its pride shattered, its strength humbled, its future deeply uncertain. Some called it a fall. Others called it quietly something the Empire had truly needed for a very long time. Back on Earth, the freed prisoners of the horizon returned home to quiet celebrations, tearful reunions, and grateful relief. Ryan Cole stood outside his family's home one evening, looking up at the night sky, thinking of everything that had happened. Mara walked up beside him. "Do you think they learned their lesson?" she asked. Ryan thought for a moment. "I think some of them did, the ones who really mattered." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars twinkle peacefully above them. A peace that had come at a real cost, but a peace nonetheless. Far away, aboard a quiet, empty ship traveling silently through unknown space, old Veltho sat alone, watching the stars pass slowly by his window. He thought of the Koran Empire, humbled and changed forever. He thought of humanity, patient, disciplined, and far stronger than anyone had ever imagined. And he thought quietly of a lesson he hoped every species across the galaxy would someday learn. Strength was not found only in weapons or fear. Sometimes the greatest strength of all was patience, quiet, calm, and unstoppable, waiting silently until the moment it was truly needed. Somewhere out among those same distant stars, on a small, quiet world far away, another young alien leader listened nervously to reports of humanity's rise, his advisors whispering fearfully among themselves. "Should we be afraid?" one advisor asked quietly. The young leader stared silently at the stars for a long moment before finally answering, his voice heavy with uncertainty. "I don't know," he admitted softly. "But I think, from now on, we should be very careful."